You know that moment when your entire world tilts sideways and you realize you've been living in a goddamn lie? Well, Saturday afternoon at Westfield Mall was mine, and it started with a simple wave at my wife's stunning friend Ashley. I'd been wandering around like some lost suburban dad, killing time after Saddie announced her girls' trip Thursday night. She'd packed her bags Friday morning with that cheerful efficiency she used for everything. Her job at Morrison and Associates, her workout routine, her apparent double life. "Back Monday, honey," she'd said, planting a kiss on my cheek that now felt like Judas money. "Working from home as a software consultant has its perks, but weekends alone in our pristine suburban fortress felt like solitary confinement. So there I was, pretending to shop for a watch I didn't need, when I spotted Ashley coming out of Victoria's Secret with a bag that probably cost more than my monthly car payment. "Hey, what are you doing here?" she asked, her smile faltering slightly when she saw me. "Shopping. What about you?" I replied, noting how her blonde hair caught the mall's fluorescent lighting like spun gold. Ashley had always been the knockout in Saddie's friend group, the kind of woman who made married men remember what desire felt like. We chatted about nothing for a moment, the usual suburban small talk, until my brain kicked in. "Wait, aren't you on the trip with my wife?" Ashley's face shifted. The polite smile dissolved into something sharper, more knowing. She smirked, actually smirked, and said, "What trip?" "Girls' weekend. Saddie left this morning. I thought you were going." Ashley laughed, but there was no humor in it. I wasn't invited. She paused, studying my face like she was deciding whether to pull the pin on a grenade. "She's with her other guy." The words hit me like a physical blow. "What?" "Your wife's been seeing someone," Ashley continued, her voice matter of fact, like she was discussing the weather. "Everyone knows but you, apparently." My world tilted. The mall's noise, screaming kids, muzak, the general chaos of Saturday commerce faded to a dull roar. "Who?" Ashley shrugged with practiced indifference. "Some guy from her gym. Chad something. Personal trainer type. All muscles, no brain." She explained how Saddie had been lying about girls' trips for months, using their friend group as cover. "I stopped covering for her," Ashley said. "That's why I wasn't invited this time. She knew I was done with the lies." I stood there processing the betrayal, feeling like the biggest fool in suburban America. Saddie's late nights at the office, her new workout obsession, the way she'd started password protecting her phone. Ashley watched me absorb the truth, then touched my arm gently. Her fingers were warm through my shirt sleeve. "Forget her," she said boldly. "Dinner with me tonight?" I stared at her, stunned by the forward offer. "I've always thought you deserved better," she continued, her smile warming. "Let me show you." Standing there in that mall, surrounded by the debris of my marriage, I felt something shift inside me. Anger, yes, but also liberation. Saddie was 3 hours away in some resort, probably wrapped around her muscle-bound trainer, thinking she was so damn clever. "Okay," I said. Ashley lit up. "Pick me up at 7. She gave me her address and we exchanged numbers. "And David, wear something nice. Tonight's going to be special." I drove home in a daze, Ashley's revelation echoing in my head. Part of me wanted to believe it was some misunderstanding, that my wife of 8 years hadn't been playing me for a fool. But the rational part, the part that designed security systems for a living, knew better. I checked Saddie's location sharing on my phone. The little blue dot showed her at Pine Ridge Resort, 3 hours north. I'd been there once for a company retreat. Romantic place, couples suites overlooking the lake. My hands shook slightly as I dialed the resort. "Pine Ridge Resort, this is Jennifer. How can I help you?" "Hi, I'm checking on a reservation for Saddie Mitchell. My wife forgot to mention the room number." Let me look that up for you, sir." Keyboard clicking. "Yes, Mrs. Mitchell, checking out Monday. How many guests will that be for dinner reservations?" My throat felt dry. "How many guests?" "Well, you have the couple's suite, so I assumed 2 guests." "Right, 2 guests. Thanks." I hung up and stared at my phone. Couple's suite. The words burned like acid. Saddie had texted me an hour ago. "Having amazing time with the girls. Weather's perfect. Love you." Lies. All lies. I walked through our house, our carefully decorated, mortgage-heavy suburban dream, and saw it differently now. The family photos on the mantel looked like props. The wedding picture on Saddie's nightstand seemed like evidence of a crime. By 6:30, I was showered, shaved, and wearing my best shirt. The one Saddie had bought me last Christmas, ironically enough. If I was going to have dinner with her stunning friend while she was off screwing her trainer, I might as well look good doing it. Ashley's apartment complex was upscale, all glass and steel in the trendy part of downtown. She answered the door in a red dress that should have been illegal, her hair cascading over bare shoulders. "You clean up nice," she said, grabbing her purse. "Ready for the best night of your life?" We went to Meridian, the kind of upscale restaurant where Saddie and I celebrated anniversaries back when she still pretended to love me. Ashley fit right in, drawing appreciative glances from every man in the place. "So," she said after we'd ordered wine, "how long have you known?" "Since about 3 hours ago when you told me." She studied me across the candlelit table. "You really had no idea?" "I suspected something was off. She's been different lately, distant, always at the gym or working late." I took a sip of wine, feeling it warm my chest. I guess I didn't want to see it. "I warned her she was being stupid," Ashley said. "You're a good man, David. She took you for granted." "How long has it been going on?" 3 months, maybe 4. Started as personal training sessions, became something else pretty quick. Ashley's voice carried a hint of disgust. "Chad's the type who thinks he's God's gift to women, all swagger and protein shakes. And everyone knew? Our whole group, Megan, Jessica, Katie, they all knew. Saddie made us promise to keep quiet, said she needed to figure things out." Ashley leaned forward, her voice dropping. "But I was done lying for her. You deserved to know." The conversation flowed easier than it should have, given the circumstances. Ashley was funny, intelligent, and refreshingly honest after years of Saddie's careful image management. She told me about her job in marketing, her divorce 2 years ago, her decision to put herself first for once. "I've always wondered what it would be like," she said, reaching across the table to touch my hand. What would be like? Being with someone real, someone who doesn't treat relationships like a game." Her fingers traced across my knuckles. "Her loss is my gain." The restaurant's noise faded as we looked at each other. Ashley's eyes were green, I noticed. Saddie's were brown, but I couldn't remember the last time I'd looked into them and seen warmth. "You know what the really sick part is?" I said. She texted me this afternoon about having an amazing time with the girls. Ashley laughed, but there was steel in it. "She's probably posting Instagram stories right now, making sure everyone thinks she's the perfect wife." We finished dinner and moved to the bar, then outside to the restaurant's patio. The night air was cool, and Ashley moved closer, ostensibly for warmth. When she kissed me in the parking lot, it felt like revenge and redemption rolled into one. "Your place or mine?" she whispered against my lips. "Mine," I said. "Definitely mine." We barely made it through my front door before Ashley was pulling me toward her, her hands fisting in my shirt. 8 years of marriage had made me forget what raw desire felt like, but Ashley reminded me quickly. "I've thought about this," she admitted as we stumbled toward the stairs. "More than I should have." "How much more?" "Every time I saw you at Saddie's parties, every time she complained about you working too much or not being romantic enough." She stopped on the landing, her hands framing my face. "She's an idiot, David, a complete idiot." Saddie's bedroom, our bedroom, felt different with Ashley in it. The space Saddie had decorated with her carefully chosen colors and throw pillows became something else entirely. Ashley made it real again, human again. Afterward, as we lay tangled in sheets that smelled like Ashley's perfume instead of Saddie's usual lavender, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years: satisfaction. "No regrets?" Ashley asked, tracing patterns on my chest. "None," I said, and meant it. My phone buzzed with a text from Saddie. "Missing you. Can't wait to see you Monday." Ashley saw the message and laughed. "Let her think she's winning." I texted back. "Having a great weekend, too. See you Monday." Vague enough to be honest, specific enough to let Saddie think I was pining away for her. "You're evil," Ashley said, reading over my shoulder. "I'm learning." We spent Sunday together, too. Ashley made breakfast in my kitchen, wearing one of my shirts and nothing else. We posted subtle photos on social media. Nothing obvious, just enough to make people wonder. Ashley tagged me in a picture of her coffee cup next to mine at the kitchen island. Innocent enough, but Saddie's other friends would notice. Sunday evening, Ashley finally went home, but not before making plans for the following weekend. "This isn't just about revenge, you know," she said at the door. "I meant what I said at dinner. I've wanted this for a long time." "Good," I said, kissing her again, "because I think I'm going to want it for a long time, too." Monday morning arrived like a reckoning. Saddie called around 10, saying she'd be home by 2. I spent the morning working, or pretending to work, while replaying the weekend in my mind. Ashley's laugh, the way she'd looked at me across the dinner table, the feeling of being wanted instead of tolerated. At 1:30, I heard Saddie's car in the driveway. I was in my office, supposedly reviewing code, when I heard her key in the lock. "David, I'm home." Her voice carried that forced cheer she used when she was overcompensating. I wondered if Chad had been good to her, if he'd made her feel special, if she'd thought about me at all while she was betraying our marriage. I heard her moving around downstairs, then her footsteps on the stairs. She was humming, actually humming, as she came up to our bedroom. The humming stopped abruptly. "David!" Her voice was sharp now, confused. "David, get in here." I found her standing in our bedroom doorway, holding Ashley's red heels, the ones she'd worn to dinner Friday night and forgotten in our rush to get upstairs. "Whose are these?" Saddie demanded. I looked at the shoes, then at my wife. She was tan from her weekend getaway, her hair highlighted by sun and guilt. She looked beautiful and furious and completely caught off guard. "Could ask you the same thing about your weekend," I said calmly. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means I know about Chad." Saddie's face went through several expressions in rapid succession: confusion, denial, fear, and finally calculation. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Pine Ridge Resort. Couples suite. Personal trainer from your gym." I sat down on the bed, noting how the sheets still smelled faintly like Ashley's perfume. "Should I go on?" "David, I can explain." "Can you? Because I'm really curious how you explain months of lying to my face." Saddie set the shoes down carefully, her lawyer instincts kicking in. "How did you find out? Does it matter?" "It matters to me." "I ran into Ashley at the mall Saturday. She told me everything." Saddie's face hardened. "That witch? I knew she was jealous of us." "Jealous enough to sleep with your husband while you were off screwing your trainer?" The words hung in the air like smoke. Saddie stared at me, processing what I'd just admitted. "You slept with Ashley?" "All weekend, actually. She's amazing, by the way. Really knows how to make a man feel appreciated." Saddie's composure cracked. "You bastard! How could you do this to me?" I laughed, actually laughed, at her indignation. "How could I do this to you? Saddie, you've been cheating on me for months." That's different." "How? How is it different?" She struggled for words, her face flushed with anger and embarrassment. Because I was trying to figure things out. I was confused. And I was lonely. Guess we both found solutions. The fight that followed was spectacular. 8 years of marriage don't die quietly, especially when both parties have ammunition. Saddie accused me of betraying our vows. I reminded her she'd done it first. She called Ashley a home-wrecking slut. I suggested she look in a mirror. "I want her out of this house," Saddie finally said, "and I want you to end whatever this is. Ashley's not here anymore, and what I do with my personal life is no longer your concern. I'm your wife." "Are you?" "Because wives don't usually spend weekends in couples suites with their personal trainers." Saddie tried a different approach, softening her voice, moving closer. "David, we can work through this. People make mistakes. We can go to counseling, figure out how to fix this." "Fix what? Your lying, your cheating, your complete disrespect for our marriage?" "I made a mistake. Months of mistakes, Saddie. This wasn't one bad decision. This was a pattern of betrayal." She was crying now, but I felt nothing. The tears that might have moved me 6 months ago looked like manipulation now. "Where are you going to go?" I asked. "What do you mean?" "I mean, this is my house. I bought it before we got married. My name's on the deed." I stood up, suddenly tired of the whole conversation. "You can stay in the guest room tonight, but I want you out by the weekend." "You can't just kick me out." "Watch me." That evening, Ashley came over with Chinese takeout and a bottle of wine. Saddie was locked in the guest room, supposedly making phone calls, but I could hear her crying through the door. "How'd she take it?" Ashley asked, settling onto the couch beside me. "About as well as you'd expect. Lots of tears, some yelling, threats to take me for everything I'm worth." "Can she?" "Doubtful. Prenup's pretty solid, and adultery doesn't play well in divorce court." I opened the wine, feeling more relaxed than I had in months. "Besides, I've got documentation now." Ashley raised an eyebrow. "Documentation?" I pulled out my phone and showed her the photos I'd taken of Saddie's text messages with Chad. Explicit messages, plans for their weekend getaway, discussions of their future together. "When did you get these?" "While she was in the shower this afternoon. Her phone was on the nightstand and she'd forgotten to lock it." I scrolled through the messages, each one more damning than the last. Apparently Chad thinks I'm a boring tech nerd, and she deserves someone who knows how to treat a woman. Ashley read over my shoulder, her expression growing darker. "God, she's pathetic. Listen to this. I can't wait to be with you properly without sneaking around. What did she think was going to happen? You'd just disappear. According to these messages, the plan was to string me along until she figured out if Chad was serious about her. Then she'd file for divorce and try to take half of everything. Mercenary witch. We ate dinner and watched Netflix, pointedly ignoring the sounds from upstairs. Around 10, Saddie came down, dressed in her pajamas, her eyes red from crying. I'm going to stay at Katie's for a few days, she announced. Give us both some space to think. Good idea, I said, not looking away from the TV. David, this doesn't have to be the end. We can still fix this. I looked at her then, this woman I'd loved for 8 years, and felt nothing but pity. Saddie, it was over the moment you decided to lie to me. Everything since then has just been cleanup. She left the next morning, taking 2 suitcases and her wounded pride. I watched from the kitchen window as she loaded her car, noting how she kept glancing back at the house like she expected me to run after her. I didn't. The next few weeks fell into a surprisingly comfortable routine. Ashley stayed over most nights, transforming the house from a mausoleum of my failed marriage into something that felt like a home again. We cooked together, watched movies, made love in every room Saddie had once claimed as her territory. You know this is going to get messy, right? Ashley said one evening as we shared a bottle of wine on the back deck. Saddie's not going to just disappear quietly. Let her make noise. I've got evidence, I've got the house, and I've got the moral high ground. And you've got me, Ashley added, curling against my side. That too. Saddie had been staying at her friend Katie's house, but the arrangement was clearly temporary. She'd been calling daily, alternating between tearful apologies and angry demands. I'd stopped answering after the 3rd day. The first sign of real trouble came when my friend Mike called. Dude, what the hell is going on? Saddie called Jennifer, crying about how you kicked her out and moved your mistress in. Mike had been my friend since college, married to Jennifer for 6 years. They were the kind of couple Saddie and I used to double date with, back when we still pretended to enjoy each other's company. Did she mention why I kicked her out? She said you two were having problems, but, Mike, she's been cheating on me for months. I found out, and now she's trying to play the victim. Silence on the other end. Then, shit, man, I'm sorry, I had no idea. Nobody did. She's good at lying. But as the days passed, it became clear that Saddie was working hard to control the narrative. She'd reached out to our entire social circle, painting herself as the wronged wife whose husband had abandoned her for her best friend. The fact that she'd been cheating first was conveniently omitted from her version of events. Tom and Lisa were the first to choose sides. Tom called me on a Thursday evening, his voice stiff and formal. David, I think you should know that Lisa and I won't be comfortable socializing with you while you're in your current situation. My current situation? Living with Ashley while you're still married to Saddie. It's not right, man. Tom, Saddie was cheating on me, with her personal trainer, for months. That's not what she told Lisa. Of course it's not. Did you ask her about Pine Ridge Resort? About the couple's suite she booked with Chad? Another pause. Look, I don't want to get in the middle of this, but what you're doing with Ashley, it's not cool. Saddie's devastated. Saddie's a liar and a cheat. I think you both need to figure your shit out. Until you do, we're staying out of it. He hung up before I could respond. The social isolation was swift and brutal. Within 2 weeks, most of our coupled friends had chosen Saddie's side. The reasoning was always the same. I was the one flaunting my new relationship while Saddie was the abandoned wife trying to save her marriage. The fact that Saddie had been screwing her trainer in resort hotel rooms was somehow less offensive than me finding comfort with Ashley. The suburban moral calculus was screwed up, but it was consistent. Jennifer, Mike's wife, was the most vocal in her condemnation. She cornered me at the grocery store on a Saturday morning, her face flushed with righteous anger. How could you do this to Saddie? She demanded, blocking my path in the cereal aisle. She's heartbroken, David. Absolutely heartbroken. Did she tell you about Chad? She told me you two were having problems and you decided to solve them by screwing her best friend. She told you half the truth. The other half is that she's been cheating on me for months. Jennifer's expression didn't change. Even if that's true, what you're doing is worse. You're humiliating her publicly. I'm moving on with my life. You're parading your mistress around town while your wife is begging you to work things out. The word mistress hit like a slap. Ashley isn't my mistress. Saddie destroyed our marriage. Ashley's helping me build something new. By sleeping with a married man. By being honest with me, something my wife forgot how to do. Jennifer shook her head in disgust. You used to be a good man, David. I don't know what happened to you. She walked away, leaving me standing in the cereal aisle with a shopping cart and a growing sense that my entire social world was collapsing. That evening, Ashley found me on the back deck, staring into the darkness. "Rough day?" she asked, settling into the chair beside me. "Jennifer ambushed me at the store. Called you my mistress. Told me I used to be a good man." Ashley was quiet for a moment. "Do you regret this? Us?" "No. Never." I reached for her hand. "But I'm starting to understand the cost. Saddie's good at playing the victim. She always has been." "How do you mean?" Ashley sighed. "Remember when she got passed over for that promotion last year? She spent weeks telling everyone how the company was sexist, how her boss had it out for her. Made herself the center of a discrimination narrative." "Yeah, I remember." "What she didn't tell people was that she'd missed 3 major deadlines and had been written up twice for showing up late. I know because Katie works in HR. I stared at Ashley. "You never told me that." "It wasn't my place, but Saddie's always been good at rewriting history to make herself the hero, or the victim, depending on what gets her more sympathy." The next week brought more defections. Our neighbor, Carol, stopped waving when she saw me. The couple from down the street, Mark and Susan, crossed to the other side when they saw Ashley and me walking together. Even my barber, a guy I'd been going to for 5 years, was suddenly cold and professional. Saddie was winning the social war, and she knew it. The breaking point came 3 weeks later at Mike and Jennifer's barbecue. I almost didn't go, but Ashley convinced me we shouldn't hide. "If we start avoiding places because Saddie might be there, we're letting her win," she said. "Besides, Mike's your friend. He'll come around." We were wrong on both counts. Saddie was there, of course, playing the role of the brave, abandoned wife to perfection. She was dressed in a simple sundress that made her look vulnerable, her hair pulled back in a style that emphasized her sad eyes. She was surrounded by a protective circle of women who shot daggers at Ashley and me when we arrived. Mike greeted us at the door, but his smile was forced. "Glad you could make it," he said, though his tone suggested otherwise. The party was awkward from the start. Conversation stopped when we approached groups. People found excuses to move away when Ashley tried to join discussions. Saddie, meanwhile, was the center of attention, accepting sympathy and support from everyone present. I was getting a beer from the cooler when Tom approached me, his face grim. "This is screwed up, David." "What is?" "Bringing her here. Saddie's trying to hold it together, and you show up with the woman who destroyed her marriage." "Ashley didn't destroy anything. Saddie did that all by herself." "Bullshit. Saddie made a mistake, maybe, but you're the one who blew up your marriage." "A mistake? Tom, she was planning to divorce me and take half my assets. I've seen the text messages." "You went through her phone?" "She left it unlocked." Tom shook his head. "You're rationalizing, man. You wanted to cheat, so you found an excuse." The conversation was getting louder, drawing attention from other guests. Saddie was watching from across the yard, her expression carefully neutral. "I didn't want to cheat," I said, my voice rising. "I wanted a wife who didn't lie to me every day." "Keep your voice down," Tom hissed. "Why? Because it might upset poor Saddie? The woman who spent 3 months screwing her trainer while I worked 60-hour weeks to pay for her lifestyle? You're making a scene." "Good. Maybe it's time people heard the truth." By now, the entire party was watching us. Saddie had moved closer, flanked by Jennifer and 2 other women I didn't recognize. "David," Saddie said, her voice soft and pained. "Please don't do this here." "Do what? Tell people what really happened?" "You're drunk." "I'm sober, and I'm tired of letting you control the narrative." I pulled out my phone and found the screenshots I'd taken of Saddie's messages with Chad. "You want to know what really happened? Saddie's been cheating on me since February, planning to leave me once she figured out how to maximize her divorce settlement." "David, stop," Mike said, reaching for my phone. I stepped back. "She told Chad I was a boring tech nerd who didn't deserve her. Said she was going to take me for everything I was worth." "Put the phone away," Jennifer demanded. "Why? Because it doesn't fit the story Saddie's been telling you?" Saddie was crying now, but I was beyond caring. 8 years of marriage, and she'd thrown it away for a muscle-bound trainer who probably couldn't spell commitment, much less understand it. "She used all of you as alibis," I continued. "Every girls' night, every work event, every shopping trip. Half of them were lies, so she could sneak around with Chad." "That's enough," Tom said, stepping between Saddie and me. "You need to leave." "I need to leave? I'm the one telling the truth. You're the one humiliating your wife at a friend's party." "She's not my wife anymore. She stopped being my wife the moment she decided to sleep with someone else." The silence that followed was deafening. Saddie was sobbing openly now, supported by the circle of women who'd appointed themselves her protectors. The men were looking at me like I just kicked a puppy. Ashley appeared at my side, her hand on my arm. "Let's go," she said quietly. "Yeah," Mike said, his voice cold. "I think that's a good idea." We left without saying goodbye to anyone. The fallout from the barbecue was swift and complete. By Monday morning, I'd received texts from 3 different people telling me I was no longer welcome at various social events. Mike called to tell me our friendship was on hold until I figured out how to treat people with respect. Saddie, meanwhile, had achieved martyrdom status. Her performance at the party, the tears, the vulnerability, the grace under pressure, had cemented her position as the wronged woman. My display of evidence was seen as cruel and vindictive, regardless of its truth. "Screw them," Ashley said when I showed her the messages. "Screw all of them. They were my friends." "No, they weren't. Friends would have listened to your side of the story. These people just wanted drama and chose the more entertaining victim." She was right, but it didn't make the isolation any easier. For 15 years since college, my social life had revolved around this group. Now I was persona non grata, cast out for the crime of refusing to be quietly cuckolded. The divorce proceedings started the following week. Saddie hired Patricia Hendricks, the most aggressive family law attorney in the city. Her strategy was predictable: paint me as the unfaithful husband who'd abandoned his loving wife for a younger woman. The fact that Saddie had been cheating first was legally relevant, but socially irrelevant. In the court of public opinion, I was the villain. My attorney, Robert Chen, was more optimistic. "She's got an uphill battle," he said during our first meeting. "The text messages you found establish a clear pattern of adultery. Plus, the prenup is solid." "What about her claims that I abandoned the marriage?" "Moving on after discovering adultery isn't abandonment, it's self-preservation." The legal process dragged on for months. Saddie fought every point, every asset division, every custody arrangement for our non-existent children. She was bleeding money on attorney's fees, but Patricia Hendricks was happy to take her cash in exchange for drawing out my misery. Meanwhile, Ashley and I settled into something that felt like a real relationship. She moved in officially after Saddie's belongings were finally removed from the house. We traveled together, explored new restaurants, built inside jokes, and shared routines. "Do you ever miss it?" she asked one evening as we cooked dinner together. "The old life?" "Which part? The lying wife or the fair weather friends?" "The certainty, I guess. Knowing where you stood." I considered the question while chopping vegetables. I thought I knew where I stood. Turns out I was standing on quicksand. I looked at her, noting how natural she looked in my kitchen. How right this felt. This is better. Harder, maybe, but better. Even with all the social fallout? Especially with all the social fallout. At least now I know who my real friends are. The answer was almost no one. Of our entire social circle, only my college roommate Danny had reached out to offer support. Everyone else had chosen sides, and Saddie's victim narrative had proven more compelling than my evidence of her betrayal. Saddie's final play came 6 months after I'd kicked her out. She showed up at my office on a Tuesday afternoon, looking polished and determined. My assistant Karen buzzed me to say my wife was here to see me. Ex-wife, I corrected, but told her to send Saddie in. She entered my office like she was walking into a boardroom, all business confidence and calculated charm. She'd lost weight, I noticed, and her hair was shorter, more professional. The victim look had been replaced by something harder. "David," she said, settling into the chair across from my desk. "We need to talk." I thought that's what lawyers were for. This is bigger than lawyers. I leaned back in my chair, studying her. "I'm listening." "I know about the Meridian account." My blood went cold. The Meridian account was my biggest client, representing about 40% of my annual revenue. It was also the contract that had allowed me to buy the house, fund our lifestyle, and build the financial security Saddie was now trying to take half of. "What about it?" Saddie smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "I know you've been billing them for work you didn't do. Padding hours, charging for phantom consultations, inflating expenses. That's a lie. Is it? Because I have documentation, emails, timesheets, expense reports, all showing a pattern of fraud going back 2 years. I stared at her, my mind racing. How would you have access to any of that? I helped you with your books, remember? All those late nights when you were too busy to handle the administrative stuff? I was backing up your files, organizing your records, making sure everything was properly documented. The memory hit me like a physical blow. She had helped with my bookkeeping, especially during busy periods. I'd given her access to my systems, my files, my client communications. You're bluffing. Saddie opened her purse and pulled out a manila folder. Am I? She slid the folder across my desk. Inside were printouts of emails, timesheets, and expense reports. All legitimate, all properly documented, but presented in a way that could look suspicious to someone who didn't understand the context. This is bullshit, Saddie. These are all legitimate charges. Are they? Because this email shows you billing Meridian for 8 hours of consultation on March 15th, but your calendar shows you were at the dentist that afternoon. I looked at the documents more carefully. She'd cherry-picked incidents where my time tracking had been imprecise, where I'd billed for thinking time or research that wasn't explicitly documented, where the complexities of consulting work could be misrepresented as fraud. This is all explainable. Maybe to you, but how do you think it'll look to Meridian's legal department, or to the state licensing board? The threat was clear. Saddie was prepared to destroy my career to win the divorce. What do you want? 50% of everything, the house, the retirement accounts, the business assets, and I want you to end things with Ashley. Go to hell. Saddie stood up, smoothing her skirt. You have 48 hours to decide. Agree to my terms, or I send these documents to Meridian and file a complaint with the state. She walked to the door, then turned back. Oh, and David, if you think you can discredit me by bringing up Chad, think again. I've already told Patricia about the affair. We're prepared to argue that my infidelity was a response to your emotional abandonment and financial stress caused by your fraudulent billing practices. She left me sitting in my office, staring at the folder that could destroy everything I'd built. That evening, I showed Ashley the documents Saddie had left. We spread them across the dining room table, going through each page, each accusation, each carefully crafted implication. Can she actually prove fraud? Ashley asked. Not if anyone bothers to look closely at the context. But she doesn't need to prove it. She just needs to create enough doubt to destroy my reputation. What about the prenup? Doesn't matter if I lose my business. Can't split assets that don't exist. Ashley was quiet for a long time, studying the papers. She's been planning this for a while. What do you mean? Look at the dates. She's been collecting this stuff for over a year, long before you found out about Chad. I looked more carefully at the documentation. Ashley was right. Some of the emails and records dated back 14 months, long before Saddie's affair had started. She was building a case against me while we were still happy, or while I thought we were happy. This wasn't about Chad, David. This was about money. The affair was just her exit strategy. The realization hit me like a physical blow. Saddie hadn't cheated because she was unhappy or confused or looking for excitement. She'd cheated because she'd already decided to leave me and wanted to maximize her settlement. Chad was just the vehicle for her escape. I need to call Robert, I said, reaching for my phone. My attorney was blunt in his assessment. She's got you over a barrel. Even if we can prove the billing was legitimate, the accusations alone will destroy your business. Clients don't stick around when their consultants are under investigation for fraud. So, what are my options? Give her what she wants, or fight and lose everything? I hung up and looked at Ashley, who'd been listening to the conversation. I'm sorry, I said. I never thought she'd go this far. Ashley was quiet for a moment, then she smiled. You know what your problem is, David? What? You're thinking like a victim. You're letting Saddie control the game. She's got documentation? She's got out-of-context paperwork and a lot of nerve, but she's forgetting something important. What's that? Ashley pulled out her phone. She's not the only one who knows how to collect evidence. She showed me her screen. It was a recording app, and it had been running for the past 6 months. Every conversation, every phone call, every threat she's made since you kicked her out, including some very interesting discussions with Chad about their plans to take you for everything you're worth. I stared at the phone. You've been recording her? I've been protecting us. Saddie's not the only one who can play dirty. Ashley scrolled through the recordings. Here's her admitting to Patricia that she was planning to leave you before the affair started. Here's her telling Chad that she was going to destroy you in the divorce. And here's my personal favorite, her laughing about how stupid you were for trusting her with your business records. Is this legal? One-party consent state. As long as one person in the conversation knows it's being recorded, it's admissible. I looked at the phone, then at Ashley. Why didn't you tell me about this before? Because I hoped we wouldn't need it. But Saddie just escalated this into a war. Time to show her what real warfare looks like. The next morning, I called Saddie and asked her to meet me at a coffee shop downtown. She arrived looking confident, probably expecting me to capitulate to her demands. Have you made your decision? She asked, settling into the chair across from me. I have. I pulled out my phone and placed it on the table between us. But first, I want you to listen to something. I pressed play. Saddie's voice filled the space between us. The idiot actually thinks I'm going to couples therapy. I'm just buying time until Patricia figures out the best way to take him apart. Saddie's face went white. Where did you get that? Ashley's been recording your conversations for months. Turns out you're not as careful as you thought. I played another clip. David's so trusting, he actually gave me access to all his business files. Patricia says we can use them to destroy his reputation if he doesn't give me what I want. That's illegal. Actually, it's not. One-party consent, remember? Ashley was part of these conversations. I played a third recording, this one of Saddie talking to Chad. Once I get half his assets, we can start that gym we talked about. David will be too broke and broken to cause us any problems. Saddie was shaking now, her confident facade crumbling. What do you want? Nothing. You get nothing. You sign a settlement agreement giving up any claim to my assets, my business, or my property. In exchange, I don't send these recordings to your attorney, your employer, or the State Bar Association for filing fraudulent complaints. You can't. I can, and I will. You want to play hardball, Saddie? Let's play. I leaned forward, my voice dropping to a whisper. You have 24 hours to have Patricia draw up a settlement agreement. You get your personal belongings, your car, and whatever's left in your checking account after you pay your legal fees. Everything else stays with me. David, please. 24 hours, or I destroy you the way you tried to destroy me. I stood up and left her sitting in the coffee shop, staring at my phone, which I'd deliberately left on the table. The next recording was already queued up. Saddie admitting to her sister that she'd never loved me, that I'd just been a stepping stone to the life she really wanted. Let her listen to her own words for a while. Saddie's attorney called Robert the next afternoon. Patricia Hendricks, the most aggressive family law attorney in the city, was suddenly very interested in settling quickly and quietly. My client is prepared to accept a minimal settlement in exchange for a rapid resolution, Patricia said during the conference call. She just wants to move on with her life. Translation. Saddie had realized that her nuclear option would destroy her as much as me, and she was cutting her losses. The settlement was finalized within a week. Saddie got her car, her clothes, and about $15,000 from her personal accounts. Everything else, the house, the retirement funds, the business assets, stayed with me. She also agreed to a non-disclosure clause that prevented her from discussing the details of our divorce or making any public statements about our relationship. Ashley's recordings had made it clear that Saddie's victim narrative was a carefully constructed lie, and she couldn't risk that evidence becoming public. The day the divorce was finalized, Ashley and I celebrated at Meridian, the same restaurant where we'd had our first date. It felt appropriate. We were back where it all started, but everything was different now. Any regrets? Ashley asked, raising her wine glass. About the divorce? None. About how it ended. The recordings, the threats, the scorched earth approach. I considered the question. Saddie tried to destroy me, not just financially, but professionally and personally. She was prepared to ruin my reputation, my business, my entire life to get what she wanted. And instead, she got nothing. She got what she deserved. Ashley smiled and clinked her glass against mine. To getting what we deserve. 3 months later, Saddie and Chad's relationship imploded. Apparently, a personal trainer's salary wasn't enough to fund the lifestyle Saddie had become accustomed to. She'd moved in with him after the divorce, but the cramped apartment and tight budget had quickly soured their romance. I heard about their breakup from Danny, who'd run into Chad at a bar. Chad was bitter and broke, having spent his savings on Saddie during their brief relationship. Saddie had moved back in with her parents, a 40-year-old woman starting over from scratch. Kinda sad, actually, Danny said when he told me the story. Is it? I asked. She made her choices. Still, from where she was to where she is now. Where she was built on lies and manipulation. This is just reality catching up with her. I felt no satisfaction in Saddie's downfall, but no sympathy either. She'd gambled everything on her ability to manipulate and deceive, and she'd lost. The consequences were hers to live with. Ashley and I were married 18 months after my divorce was finalized. We had a small ceremony in the backyard of our house, the house that had once been Saddie's dream home and was now ours. The guest list was small but genuine. Danny was my best man. Ashley's sister flew in from Seattle to be her maid of honor. A few colleagues from work, some of Ashley's friends from her marketing job, and my neighbor Carol, who'd eventually come around after learning the truth about Saddie's behavior. Mike and Jennifer weren't invited. Neither were Tom and Lisa, or any of the other fair-weather friends who'd chosen Saddie's dramatic victim narrative over the messy truth of what had actually happened. I'd learned that losing people who were never really on your side wasn't actually a loss. Do you miss them? Ashley asked as we watched our small group of guests mingle in the backyard. Sometimes, but I don't miss the feeling of being judged by people who didn't bother to learn the facts. Their loss. Our gain. Ashley's pregnancy was announced 6 months later. We'd talked about kids during our courtship, both agreeing that we wanted a family when the time was right. The timing felt perfect. My business had recovered from the divorce drama. Ashley had gotten a promotion at her firm, and we'd built something stable and honest together. Saddie heard about the pregnancy through the suburban gossip network and sent a congratulatory text that felt more like a probe for information than genuine good wishes. I showed it to Ashley, who laughed and suggested we ignore it. She's fishing, Ashley said. Wants to see if we'll respond, if she still has any power to affect our lives. And do we respond? With silence. The best response to manipulation is no response at all. Our daughter was born on a Tuesday in October, healthy and perfect, and completely ours. We named her Emma after Ashley's grandmother. She had Ashley's green eyes and what the nurses assured us was my stubborn chin. Holding Emma in the hospital room, watching Ashley sleep peacefully after 12 hours of labor, I thought about the path that had brought us here. Saddie's betrayal had felt like the end of everything, but it had actually been the beginning of something better. Thank you, I whispered to my sleeping daughter. For what? I wasn't entirely sure. For existing, for giving us a future to build toward, for being the product of love instead of obligation, for representing everything Saddie and I had never had, and everything Ashley and I had found together. Epilogue. Full circle. 2 years later, I ran into Saddie at the grocery store. It was the same store where Jennifer had confronted me about my mistress all those years ago. But the woman I encountered bore little resemblance to the confident, manipulative person who'd tried to destroy my life. Saddie looked older, tired, wearing the kind of discount store clothes she'd once sneered at. She was alone, pushing a cart with the defeated efficiency of someone going through the motions of living. "David," she said when she saw me. "Hi." "Saddie." We stood there for a moment, two people who'd once shared a life and now had nothing to say to each other. "I heard about your daughter," she said finally. "Congratulations." "Thank you." "And Ashley, how is she?" "She's good. We're all good." Saddie nodded, her eyes distant. That's good. I'm glad you're happy." She started to walk away, then turned back. "David, I know this probably doesn't matter now, but I'm sorry. For all of it. For the lying, the cheating, the way I tried to hurt you at the end. You didn't deserve any of that." I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw something I'd never seen before. Genuine remorse. Not the manipulative tears she'd used during our marriage, but actual regret. "Thank you for saying that," I said. "I was angry and scared, and I handled everything wrong. I know that now." "We both made mistakes, Saddie." She smiled sadly. "No, David. You made one mistake. You trusted me. I made 1,000 mistakes and tried to blame them on you." She walked away then, disappearing into the maze of grocery aisles, and I knew I'd never see her again. Not in any way that mattered. I finished my shopping and drove home to Ashley and Emma, to the life we'd built from the ashes of my first marriage. Ashley was in the kitchen making dinner, Emma playing with blocks on the floor, the evening news murmuring from the television. "How was your day?" Ashley asked, kissing me as I walked in. "Good," I said, picking up Emma, who squealed with delight. "Really good." I didn't mention seeing Saddie. There was no point. That chapter of my life was closed, filed away with all the other experiences that had shaped me but no longer defined me. That night, after Emma was asleep and Ashley and I were curled up on the couch watching a movie, I thought about the journey that had brought us here, the betrayal that had felt like an ending but was actually a beginning, the friends who'd revealed themselves to be strangers and the stranger who'd become my partner. "What are you thinking about?" Ashley asked, noticing my distraction. "Just how different everything is now. How much better." "Better than what?" "Better than what I thought I wanted. Better than what I thought I deserved." Ashley smiled and snuggled closer. "You deserve everything good, David. You always did." Outside, the suburban neighborhood was settling into evening quiet. Kids being called in for dinner, porch lights flickering on, the comfortable rhythm of ordinary life. It was the same setting where my first marriage had died, but it felt completely different now, because this time it was real.